In 2004, Half-Life 2 became a true masterpiece in the world of video games. However, few people know that before the release, the game underwent significant changes. In 2003, a beta version leaked, which showed what the game could have been: darker, harsher, and much more ambitious. Today, we will analyze how Half-Life 2 would have changed if it had remained the same as it was in the beta version. The main difference between the final version and the beta is the atmosphere. City 17 in the beta was a real industrial hell. Smog, half-ruined buildings, factories. All this emphasized the overwhelming power of the Combine. And if the final version gives at least a hint of hope, then the beta reflects the absolute dominance of the Combine. It would be a world in which humanity would truly be slaves, forced to work in terrible conditions. In the final version of Half-Life 2, City 17 appears to players as a Combine-controlled city, but its streets don't feel completely dead. It's more like a city where life still glimmers despite the tyranny of the alien invaders. However, in the beta, the atmosphere was completely different. City 17 in the original concept was more like a post-apocalyptic world where there was no hope for the future at all. Instead of relatively clean streets where residents walk, we see abandoned neighborhoods with destroyed buildings and crowds of people suffering from oppression. In some places, factories continue to operate, throwing thick clouds of smoke into the sky. A reminder that this city is not a place to live, but a machine for exploitation. These areas would emphasize the hopelessness and total control of the Combine. Even the sewer systems would be turned into traps full of mutants and traps. The beta also included underground areas where the remnants of the rebels hid from the Combine. These locations would have made the game even more unsettling and dangerous. Each location in the beta would have had the feeling of a broken world. It would have been a dark and deadly labyrinth where every street and canal would be under Combine control and resistance could end in death. In the Half-Life 2 beta, many characters played key roles in the plot, but their fates and personalities were significantly changed or completely excluded from the final version of the game. One of the most striking examples is the Consul, who in the original version was supposed to be the main antagonist of the game. The Consul would have been a much more complex figure than the Dr. Breen from the final version. He was not just the leader of the people under the control of the Combine, he actively sought to cooperate with them, while Dr. Breen tried to maintain the image of the savior of humanity. The Consul saw Combine as an opportunity for humanity to rise to a new level of development, but at the same time, he was ready to sacrifice any freedom for the sake of his vision of progress.
Continue his research.
Thanks to you, we have everything we need in that regard. You're more than qualified to finish his research yourself. What neither you nor I can do is convince that rabble in the streets to give up.
The Consul was also much more influential and charismatic. He was able to convince people that cooperation with Combine was the only way out, and his speeches would sound like propaganda for a new order. This character would have personified the idea of an idealist who loses his humanity for the sake of a global goal. He would have been Freeman's shadow, the opposite of the hero. Another important cut character was Captain Vance, the leader of the Resistance, who was stricter and tougher than his final version, Eli Vance. Captain Vance symbolized the struggle of the older generation, soldiers who had already lost a lot in the war with the Combine and were ready to take radical measures. His image would have shown a conflict between the desire for freedom and the willingness to make sacrifices, up to the destruction of the city's infrastructure and population for the sake of victory. Unlike the final Eli Vance, who represents science and intellect, Captain Vance would have been a man of action.
Cover! I need cover! Hang on, Peters! We're gonna get you out of there!
Stay put, Manwich. That's an order!
You're all a bunch of pussies!
Hey, you in the suit! Our APC hit a landmine, and that friggin' sniper showed up and took out our gunner. We're trying to blow open a path to Vance. You can cover Manwich. He'll take care of the rest.
Ah, this sucks! I'm going for it! You want me?
Get back,
You want
idiot!
some of me?
Sniper owns this street. Badwich is down!
He would make decisions quickly and was not afraid of blood on his hands. This would have added more grey moral areas to the game, showing that even among the rebels there can be leaders willing to take extreme measures. Each of these characters would have added depth, drama, and complexity to the game. Instead of a simple conflict of good and evil, Half-Life 2 could have offered a variety of moral dilemmas, where the characters' choices and actions would not always be unambiguous. Now, let's take a look at some of the cut locations from the original Half-Life 2. One of the most intriguing and significant cut locations from Half-Life 2 beta was the Air Exchange, a massive industrial complex that played a crucial role in the early storyline. This imposing facility was where the Combine began altering Earth's atmosphere, transforming it into something that was toxic to humans, but more hospitable for the alien forces of the Combine. In this segment, we'll dive deeper into what the Air Exchange was meant to represent, its purpose, and how it would have fit into Half-Life 2's narrative. The Air Exchange was designed as a giant atmospheric processing plant that was pivotal to the Combine's control over Earth. The Combine, being an interdimensional empire, required environments to suit their own physiology, and the Air Exchange was their means of slowly converting Earth's air into something more suitable for their purposes. Essentially, it was an environmental weapon, gradually transforming Earth into a planet inhospitable to humans, but perfect for Combine rule. In the beta, the Air Exchange was meant to be one of Gordon Freeman's early objectives. After escaping City 17, Gordon was supposed to infiltrate this massive facility and sabotage it, slowing down or halting the atmospheric conversion process. This mission was crucial because, without intervention, Earth's air would become unbreathable, further enslaving humanity under the Combine's control. The Air Exchange wasn't just a physical location. It was a symbol of the Combine's ruthless efficiency and their complete disregard for the environment or the people living on the planet. By controlling the very air people breathed, the Combine showed that their domination went beyond military conquest. They were slowly erasing the possibility of human life on Earth, and the destruction of this place could become a signal for an uprising, as the destruction of Nova Prospekt did in the original. Manhack Arcade. This unique entertainment complex was intended to be a place where the citizens of City 17 could come to escape the hardships of living under the Combine, unaware of the terrible role they played in the system of oppression. At first glance, the Manhack Arcade was something of an entertainment center. Citizens came here to take a break from the stressful life under the supervision of the Combine, and they had access to various arcade terminals. The complex was decorated in bright neon lights, creating the illusion of a regular entertainment venue, like the old arcades before the takeover of the planet. On the screen in front of each player was a shooter where they controlled small drones, destroying some kind of monsters, possibly alien creatures or faceless enemies. It all seemed like simple entertainment, but behind that screen lurked a terrible truth. In reality, players weren't killing virtual enemies. They were controlling real manhacks that were hunting people in the forbidden areas of City 17, particularly in the canals where rebels and citizens who had broken the rules were hiding. Every time a player won the game and destroyed an enemy, a real human life was actually destroyed. This concept opens up a deeper look into the psychological warfare that the Combine was waging against the population. The arcade was the perfect trap to make citizens part of a system of suppression and elimination of the rebels, without them doubting that they were doing something terrible. The Manhack Arcade didn't just train citizens to operate deadly drones, it made them unwitting accomplices of oppression. Playing in the arcade was a kind of vent for psychological relief, where citizens could let off steam and think that they were fighting imaginary threats. In reality, they were serving the Combine's purpose by eliminating their own comrades. For the Combine, the complex was the perfect tool of control, Instead of sending more soldiers or wasting resources on introducing drones, they used the citizens themselves to do dangerous work. And none of the operators were aware of their participation in this scheme. It was a method of double control, physical through violence and psychological through deception. The Combine turned the population into a tool that self-destructed from within. Like many interesting elements of the Half-Life 2 beta, Manhack Arcade was removed from the final version of the game. This could have been due to the developers wanting to simplify the plot or remove overly dark aspects. However, this place remains one of the most fascinating and original ideas that shows the extent to which the Combine used the citizens to maintain their control. So, we've only scratched the surface of how dark and hopeless the world of Half-Life 2 beta was. From dead, abandoned cities to terrifying concepts like Manhack Arcade, every detail showed that life under the Combine wasn't just hard, it was terrifying. Everything we saw in the beta revealed the depth of control, psychological manipulation, and personality destruction that humanity was subjected to. The Combine went to any lengths to suppress freedom, and every aspect of life was either turned into a tool of oppression or destroyed. But think about it. What if these concepts had made it into the final game? Perhaps the story of Half-Life 2 would have been even more shocking, brutal, and dark, forcing us to consider how close we are to similar systems of oppression in our own world. But that's not all. In the next part, we'll be covering even more concepts and ideas that could have changed the perception of Half-Life 2. Subscribe to stay up to date with new videos, and be sure to leave your comments about what elements of Half-Life 2 beta you'd be interested in seeing in the next episode.